Striking story. Now that people want to know how the story ends.
This is where the story ends, under bruised skies at a cemetery in Accrington, Lancashire.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Just yesterday, new footage was released of a young, shirtless, full of life Jay bobbing up and down, full of youthful exuberance, dark sunglasses perched on his head. A sea of youngsters in bathing suits can be seen dancing to throbbing music around him. Today, Jay's body, out in the open wilderness in a remote secluded ravine for weeks, was examined by not one coroner but two. Finally, he's back home. He's been laid to rest here, with black horses and a black carriage, blue ribbons abounding, blue uniformed friends and family, all to give the young lad a proper send-off. This is closure at last to the sort of horror of this young life, all the uncertainty around what happened to him. And of course, the rumble of riots in Britain have safely faded to the background just in time for Jay to be laid to rest. Otherwise, he would have been laid to rest in the midst of a nation caught up in swathes of unrest, a strange irony in itself. Before we get to the rest of this analysis, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I do have one more episode I want to deal with in terms of this story, a kind of epilogue that might surprise you, so look out for that. And if you find this analysis worthwhile, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. Now, according to The Independent, Mr. Slater, an apprentice bricklayer, was also remembered in a tribute from his family which outlined the major events and passions of his life. They stated, a loving son of Debbie and Warren, a cherished brother of Zach and brother-in-law of Jessica, a treasured grandson of Dawn, June, and the late Dougie, a much-loved nephew of Glenn and Katie, a dear cousin of Maddie and Tilly, and a loyal friend to many. Jay will be very sadly missed by all those who knew him. And we certainly felt the loyalty of his friends, where they very quickly raised the alarm, stayed in Tenerife, and tried to find him. The family said after Jay left Ridings High School, he went on to become an apprentice bricklayer with the PH Build Group, a job he greatly enjoyed. The PH Build Group also said something on their Facebook about the kind of person that he was. At the age of 5, Jay started playing football for Huncote United Football Club until the age of 17, and also did a few seasons with the Sunday team at St. Joseph's too. What does this tell us? The fact that Jay was quite sporty, that Jay was quite fit and fleet of foot. The fact that Jay was the kind of person who wouldn't think too much of walking or perhaps running a great distance. He also loved spending time chilling out with his friends. Jay's love of music and dance started at a very young age. He loved attending music festivals and events across the country, and also loved to socialize and meet new people. And of course, that is how we met the Airbnb dudes. Now, I don't know if the events in Tenerife were mentioned in any detail. I doubt it. I also doubt whether Jay's A&B friends attended. But I do think one has to ask, what lessons can be learned from this real-life tragedy? I also wonder whether this was mentioned at the funeral. I also doubt it. Because it is a tragedy. A young man goes off with his friends on a summer adventure to live life, and they head to a rugged desert island. If it's fun, hijinks, and adventure they were after, they certainly found exactly that. But he never comes home. He dies just as his life is starting, while he's still a teenager. And ironically, he dies as this party is winding down, as this party is ending. That's when his life ends. And he doesn't want the party to end. And in a way, that spirit of wanting the party to continue kind of plays against him. Now, in many ways, Jay Slater is like Britain's version of the Gabby Petito case. Instead of an artist and a fiancé, you have a young man reaching out, heading out with a group of friends to explore the world. And in the midst of a stupendous setting, there is catastrophe. Like Gabby was found dead in a shallow grave under the shadow of the Grand Tetons. Yes, in a national park as well, Jay was found in a similar situation. I must say, I was so inspired by Gabby Petito's story, by her Instagram post. I went to America and I retraced many of her steps, and it was an epic trip. And so we have this sense of someone young, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed who heads bravely out into the world. That is something all young people need to do, should do, must do. And they are ready to begin their lives. They are in search of a fairy tale. They're in search of finding their place in the world, only to find themselves suddenly foisted into an absolute nightmare, one that actually claims their lives. In this effort to find life and happiness, instead they encounter death, darkness, and devastation. If we are not careful, we can have our lives cruelly snatched away as well. And that's the lesson here. We need to head alertly into the unknown. It's not that we shouldn't head into the unknown. We should head into the unknown prepared for what is possible. And although we should leave the harbors of our lives, ships weren't made for harbors. Spaceships weren't made for launching pads. They were made for outer space, right? We should think critically about what we are doing and be aware of escalating risk, both in terms of ourselves and our world. But yes, as we look at these images of all these people coming to pay their respects to this young man, it is an insult to our idea of the beauty of youth, the sense that life that seems to be fortified, filled with vitality, it's not guaranteed. And it can, in a sense, be so vulnerable, so fragile. There's also a strange sense of a landscape emerging larger than life, indifferent to our various efforts at trying to find out what happened. And what lessons do we learn? Well, we're not immortal. No matter what age we are, it is possible to die. It is possible to find ourselves in harm's way. If this is a cautionary tale, then again, what do we learn from it? Well, just in general, when you're young and traveling in a foreign country, stick together. Keep your phone charged. Have a good idea where you are, right? While traveling, make sure you get and understand directions. If you're starting to get lost, make sure you know where you are. I do think had Jay simply turned right instead of left, like Kylie Rodney, like Riley Strain, he would still be alive today. Of course, there were additional factors that compounded that first original mistake, like lack of sleep, being under the influence, and ordinary hubris. That's something you can also pay attention to. Are you getting enough sleep? If you're not, well, the chance of accidents happening is greater. Being under the influence, the chance of accidents happening is greater. Hubris, thinking, well, nothing's going to happen to me, the chance of accidents happening is greater. And so whoever we are, whatever our age, when you sense that factors are compounding, stop, rest, and live to fight another day. Today, our thoughts are with Jay's family, Jay's friends, and everyone who's gotten to know him. A loss like this is very hard to deal with, and so our thoughts are with them. You know, I also had a friend who went out on a Sunday morning for a mountain bike ride and he never came back, and I've never seen him again. And he was the same kind of spirit, full of life, really didn't deserve what happened to him, loved by his community. And so, you know, we think of these people that have been lost, and it seems so unfair. But of course, the reason it hurts so much is because these people were loved. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.